We can stop right now. You
Oh,
want to
not
stop
yet.
right now? Yeah, not yet.
Sorry,
Wait for
I'm trying to
everyone
figure it out.
come. Okay. And you can just stop it real quick and I'll let everyone go ahead and connect to audio and then I'll do an intro.
There's Ami.
Recording in progress.
Oh, leave it. Thanks.
Okay, I got it. Good, John. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the William Grant Still Arts Center's Zoom and the closing discussion around our 43rd annual Black Doll
Okay.
Exhibition.
I'm
And
good. How are you?
I'm
Yeah, it's
going
because
to-
I'm on a Zoom.
I'm going to go ahead and ask everyone to mute, please. We are recording this session. It's an important archive, so just for your information, we'll be recording. If you don't want to be seen or if you don't want your words to be known, just I would say save your questions until after. But for today, I want to tell you a little bit about the William Grant Still Arts Center. The William Grant Still Arts Center is a community arts center facility of the City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs. We have been in the community since 1977, and before that, it was a firehouse. So we've been serving the community since the 1920s. We belong to you. We belong to the tax dollars of the people. And that's who we work for. And so we try our best to represent what our community would like us to do. And we work collectively there to do that for you. This year's exhibition, 43 years of the Black Doll Show, was curated by our two curators here today, Monica and Jason. And it's called Conjure. And they're going to explain a bit more about the exhibition, but we have some esteemed guests today as well. I want to let you know that the William Grant Still Arts Center has ongoing programs. We have classes, we have exhibitions, and we are actually curating right now for our 16th annual African American Composers Series, which will open, save the date, March 30th. So please save that Saturday because it is going to be very spectacular. We are focusing on a young composer from the community that I think you all will enjoy and many of you already know of. So please save that date. And of course, we're going to have an amazing party and we're even planning an after party. So we'll have partner exhibitions along with it. Please save those dates. But my name is Ami Motivali. I'm the director of the William Grant Still Arts Center. If you ever have any questions, please email me. My email address is available either if you email our website, I can get your email, or if you email ami.motivali@lacity.org. And I'm open to all of your questions and input. And again, I don't want to take up too much time. I just wanted to give you an intro and then I'm just going to fade into the background. And I want to introduce Jason, who is going to be facilitating today's conversation. So take it away and enjoy.
Hey, thank you so much, Ami, for that wonderful introduction for all of us. Once again, my name is Jason Edmonds, also known as Jason Fakolade or Oluwo Fakolade. So I'll explain a little bit about who I am in the community and what I do outside of the community. So outside of the community, I am a college professor. I teach at Cal State Dominguez Hills in the Africana Studies department. So I teach a lot of the things that we are kind of explicating and understanding and looking at. Within the community, the work that I do, I teach African martial arts, capoeira, makulele, and other African martial arts, kalinda. And the other work that I do is that of being a priest within the Ifa tradition. So I've been initiated for about 15 years to Ifa, probably about that, going on 19 or 20 years as a priest of Eshu. Along with that, I travel to the continent of Africa every year and other places in the Caribbean to further my development and understanding of our traditions. In terms of this process, this exhibition, it's very personal for me because it is something that presents much of my lineage and the way that I was brought up as a Black man in America. Both of my parents are from the South, my mother from Louisiana and my father from Tennessee. And ironically, they met on a bus coming from the South on their way to San Diego, California during the 1960s. So those of you who might know, that is probably about the second wave of the Great Migration. So within that, I come right in that tradition of, one of my good friends used to say, you can't talk about hoodoo unless you've been to all-night prayer service or watch night, or you've been to a fish fry, and just all of these different things. So in terms of that, my family has a very deep history in our indigenous traditions. And in terms of that, this is a beautiful opportunity because much of that history and information has kind of been subdued and hidden and disguised as something else. So this has been a wonderful opportunity to even allow my family members to disclose and share about, well, when for example, my father, as he was growing up, he threw a bottle at the wall and it burst and it hit him in the face. And to this day, I can look in my father's eye, like his cut right here, and see cobwebs. And those of you who know, much of the work that we do as healers, as hoodoos, as conjure people or of that lineage is that of healing. And my grandfather, when his son came in bleeding from the eye, he packed the wound with cobwebs and wrapped his face with peach leaves. And this is something that has been, that kind of herbal remedy tradition, spiritual process has been ingrained in my life, myself and my sister's life, for all of our lives. So in terms of that, this is such a personal process for us, such a personal and beautiful process that I feel blessed and lucky to be a part of. And I think that our traditions as Africans in America, it takes even more precedence than much of the practices that I've studied from the diaspora, being initiated to Palo, Ifa, Voodoo, all of those traditions. But the thing that inspired me is my history. So I would like to perhaps begin by saying that. Thank you. Oh, well, shoot, I guess I'm moderating, so I don't want to put people on the spot, but those of you who are interested in disclosing, I want everyone to give them their opportunity to share who they are in terms of being on this panel. So Monica, of course, please.
Hi, greetings, everyone. My name is Monica Bailey, and I am the education coordinator and community outreach coordinator of the William Grant Still Arts Center. Been here for 5.5 years, and also this year's curator with our co-curator, Justin, who you just heard from. I've been here for the 5.5 years, and I've been just really ingrained and entrenched in community in this space, and also the community surrounding areas in South Central LA. I grew up in the Leimert Park area, Inglewood area. As a youth, I've been involved in performance art, traveled with performance groups, and have definitely been shaped by the community and supported by elders in so many ways from my youth that has brought me back to this through my years of working through Hollywood as a researcher, and also assisting directors, producers in films like Roots, and not the original Roots, the reboot of Roots. I was just a baby then. But other films that I've been involved in, and I've always made my way back to the community because this is my foundation. So I never left. It was just, that's a craft that I do love and want to dive into. But this exhibition, this 43rd Black Annual Doll Show, such an important and pivotal foundational grounding space for the community, just Black doll making, the importance of it. I've been able to witness the doll show before I was even here, and this also, this year, being able to be curating on it just gave it a whole different meaning to it for me, because the conversation that happened, how myself and Jason became curators for the show in particular, was a conversation. Jason touched a little bit on his family lineage, a conversation right here in this space after he was teaching an African martial arts class for the youth. He was talking about his family, his wife being from Mississippi, and they were going to visit her family. And I said, oh yeah, my family is from Mississippi as well, maternal and paternal, Leland, Mississippi. And they moved also, Great Migration in the 50s, and came out here, Church of Christ Holiness, which came out of the Church in God in Christ. That was the church that I was raised in as a youth, right here in South Central LA. And he began to ask me about what we practice. He said, oh, your family, they practice hoodoo. That's, I'm sure. And I said, no, not that I know of. What do you mean? So we began to have conversations on the founder, Charles H. Mason, and his practices, and how all that is integrated in just the Black church in general. And from that point on, I just began to make the connections, and it just sparked a whole new just connection that I didn't realize that was a part of me, and that had been a part of what my grandmother does and my aunts and all these things that I grew up like with my mother rubbing, it was Vicks on the chest, but when she was a child, it was something else. They was rubbing on the chest, when you get a cold, and certain things in the church being anointed, and so many different things that I grew up as tradition. I knew was tradition, but I didn't know why. And so it got me to question and research and dive into who I am and why I do what I do, and why my mother did what she did, and so forth, and sharing that with my children as well. So that is very important, and it's something I think that the commonalities for Black folks here in North America that really don't even know how much we have taken and how much it has healed us in this space of Black spirituality, and not being afraid of that. So this exhibition, Conjure, Reclaiming Reclamation, is very important, and I'm so honored to be a part of it in this way, in this space, and Ami giving the opportunity to myself and Jason to do that.
Yes. Thank you. I would like to call Michelle. Can you please introduce yourself?
Good morning. I'm Michelle, known as Suuru Falade in the Ifa community. I'm a queer multidisciplinary artist, facilitator, and healer with a background in dance and theater performance. I've been an Ifa practitioner for about 18 years. My father was Geechee, and my great aunt on my mom's side was a root worker from Louisiana who taught me many things. I am disabled and I live with a chronic illness that has no cure. All of my work is trauma informed and pleasure centered. I have a background in organizing and activism that includes working with Black Lives Matter, Into Action, Dignity and Power Now, Recharge Teens, and We Rise. And now I'm the social media and marketing director at the William Grant Still Arts Center. And I have a little doll in this year's show. I love this show. It's my favorite iteration of the Black Doll show ever. Like, I think it's brilliant. I think that Monica and Jocelyn did a great job, and I'm happy to be here discussing what we've all learned.
Thank you so much. Daisy, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Daisy Latifa, also known as the Afro Mystic to the community that I serve. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm happy to be here. I am a practitioner of the Hoodoo tradition and an initiated water spirit priestess. I was also born into a family of Mississippi natives, so it's very interesting to hear how many people's ancestors in this room today have their origins in Mississippi and then moved here via the Great Migration. So that's something to be discussed. And within that family of Mississippi natives, we kept a lot of the practice of hoodoo alive within the Baptist church that we settled into on this side. So when Jasa is talking about watch night and we did the foot washing, we did a lot of things that felt very indigenous to the traditional cultures that we come from. And so in growing up in that family, there was a mystical edge to the way that we communicated with spirit and communicated with each other. There was just always an assumption that spirit exists, it can be communicated with, and that it's important for us to be connected to it. So from those ancestors, I learned practices of ritual ceremony in its many forms, ancestor veneration. I went on to learn divination. I'm an astrologer. I've been an astrologer for a very long time, and it's one of my favorite modalities for helping us to get to know ourselves. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist. So I provide spaces for individuals to explore the contents of their subconscious to initiate healing in themselves and for whatever reason they want to initiate healing for. And all of my work is dedicated to uplifting and upholding the spiritually cultivated ancestors of all of our lineages and to help us as people reclaim our rightful spaces under the sun. And I'm honored to be a part of this particular exhibit. I never in the history of my life have experienced anything as beautiful as what I just experienced with the William Grant Still Arts Center. I have lived between Los Angeles and the Inland Empire. I'm a Southern California girl through and through. And so I've lived in 100-mile span. And in that 100 to 150-mile span, I have never, ever been able to go outside of my home or outside of my immediate community and experience the fullness and richness of the hoodoo tradition in this area. Never in my life. The way that you all put on this exhibit was done with care, was done with accuracy, was done with authenticity, was done with true understanding of the history of our traditions, and it's been a beautiful experience to be a part of it. So thank you for having me.
Yes.
So, thank you so much. And last but not least, I would like to invite our elder, Baba Griffin. Will you please introduce yourself to those who don't know you?
Yeah, thank you. And I get a chance to see you. I've heard all good things about you personally, and now I get a chance to see you. My name is Griffin Lotson. I'm what you call a seventh generation. I heard the word once from one of my colleagues here. I'm a Gullah Geechee and birthed into it and can name my generation from history books, recordings, and writing. And at the level that I've worked, which is local, statewide, United States, and across the world now, trying to spread what you guys have championed. I don't know many groups from within the group that actually celebrate and keep the history alive of the Conjure. I live in the melting pot of Conjure. Some of the things that have happened that a lot of you have read about, I have experienced in my lifetime. And thank you for calling me elder. I lived long enough to even realize that I'm old now, and because a lot of people don't get to my age, so I'm appreciating the fact that I'm an elder now. So having said that, I'm sure I have much, much more to share, but when it comes to the Conjurer, my shameless plug for a new movie that's coming out that I had a lot to do with in its planning. It is actually similar to what you guys just did and are doing with the Conjurer. It is called Geechee Witch, the Boo Hag Story. And it depicts some of those conjurer habits that I've experienced myself in my lifetime. And they took a risk by putting some of that history from the Gullah Geechee culture. As Monica said about the Church of God in Christ, which I'm a third generation Church of God in Christ, where we displayed what they call the ring shout. And so what you're doing is timely, and I'll share more about that later. That it's a worldwide effort that I just got involved in, maybe because of the ancestors, Monica. We worked together with the movie Roots, and she left out one other part. She was an actor in that movie also. And so I had a privilege to work with her, with the producers and directors. They brought me on board because of my experience with that culture. And I got a chance to work with her then. And then, of course, with this beautiful conjurer that's going on at the Art Center. Thank you.
Thank you all so very, very much for adding your wonderful stories and information. So I want to get right into the meat of this process. So in terms of that, I want to ask some questions, and hopefully we all can have an opportunity to share our insight on them. And we all got together to kind of compose some of these, and I have an area, I have a space. I have almost a destination I want us to get to in this discussion. So let's try to get there or get around that space of upliftment. So first of all, I want to begin, I don't know if this is the best question to start off with first, but I want to start with this question. So when we think of Conjure and we think of Hoodoo, root work, and the works that we're doing and have done for the panelists, I want to ask us the question. Well, before I ask that question, I want to give a quote that I believe is from Laisa Tish in her book called Jambalaya. And that quote, I believe it goes something like this: Voodoo is the science of the oppressed. So I want to ask, what does that mean in relation to all of this? One, and two, why does our work work? So whoever would like to take that question.
Well, I will start. See, make sure my microphone is on. Yeah, I'll start. I certainly don't think I can finish it all. From what you just described, the importance of it to me and why it works. You have to believe there's a culture of people that it played a major part in their life for success and sometimes failure. All major religious organization groups all operate from the same uh, toolbox, as we say, for the conjurer, because we all believe in something that we have not ever seen before. Let's pick the one that my culture adopted, the Christian religion. We just talked about the Church of God in Christ. I am a third generation. My grandfather, 1894, when he was birthed, started the first Church of God in Christ in the 1930s. Okay, I knew him well. He lived up to a ripe age, and I was an adult when he died. Faith in a God that he has never seen. The conjurer world comes from that same type. So it's important to keep history alive. That's why those of us that dare to put on something conjurer, wow, that's like taboo. That's like, don't do that. Stevie Wonder, California, member of the Church of God in Christ. We all know the song. We love to dance by it. Superstitious is not the way. Believe in things that you don't understand. Who can understand God Almighty? Who can? I'll leave with that question as my colleagues take it further down this rabbit hole. Thank you.
If anyone else would like to add, if no one else wants to add, I have something I would like to add if possible. So
I do have a small thing to add. I definitely feel like why it works, I'll answer that part of the question, is that we as Black folk, African, diasporic, we have the DNA activation. It's just in us. So it's going to work. It's there already, and it's just us having the tools to activate it, but it's there. So.
And I'll just pop in very briefly. So why Hoodoo works for me and for my understanding is because this particular way of interacting with the world and understanding spirit and moving about spirit and letting spirit move about you is something that is indigenous and endemic to our existence as a group of people and as individuals. So one of the things about the Hoodoo tradition that is so profound and deep and connects to the deepest level of authenticity is that it's based in reality.
Yes.
It's based in reality. The sun is present every time I wake up in the morning. If the sun can shine its light, energy can move, and Hoodoo exists. If the wind can blow, Hoodoo exists. It's a trust in the natural processes of existence. You know, I don't necessarily have to believe in the wind because I can feel it. You know, so I think there is another very tangible and practical experience of the Hoodoo tradition that I tend to have in its connection to nature. Every bit of nature is medicine. Every bit of nature activates. And so if the life force of nature exists and moves, there is no, Hoodoo exists. Those two things are synonymous to me. So I think because the wind moves, hoodoo moves. And in talking about the voodoo is the science of the oppressed. When we're talking about voodoo and the hoodoo tradition, we're talking about a tradition that's created by an amalgamation of African ethnic groups that were brought here via the world's most intense Holocaust to ever exist. Right? That level of oppression was immense. One could only imagine the daily stories of pain, trauma, and oppression that our ancestors went through. And so to have a tradition that is born to preserve yourself in the world's most intense Holocaust to ever exist, I mean, in terms of numbers, in terms of size, in terms of, that tradition has to be a tradition that prioritizes the preservation of the human spirit, the will to live, the will to stay here in the midst of the horror, right? So what it kind of does, and I'm almost finished, the science of hoodoo has a equalizing capacity. It's a great equalizer for individuals who have been oppressed under that system, and it still continues to be today.
Thank you for
Yes.
giving us that. If no one else wants to say anything, I want to just kind of piggyback on what Daisy has mentioned. When we think about these wonderful, powerful traditions, and this is going to segue into the next question. These are traditions, in my opinion, that have been passed on uniquely by those who have been oppressed. What I mean by that is you see so many people trying to come into hoodoo, coming into all of these other traditions, African-based, and the only way they come into it at this time is as a result of African people who have been oppressed. So nobody was out evangelizing, hey, you come on into hoodoo, come on into Ifa and voodoo. No one's doing that. It is because people feel that energy. Also, I want to add, when we look even at some of the aesthetics of the dolls here, they epitomize many of the aspects that activate or make these traditions work. For example, homeopathy. Homeopathy is an aspect of like attracting like. So something that I want, in many cases, some of these dolls are almost like the microcosm of the macrocosm in a sense. So the thing of it is, when I have this, I might have a little dirt from the courthouse. So when I go to the courthouse has no problem with me. Homeopathy, like attracting like. Contiguity, something that has contact will remain to have contact with it until there is no more. Fingernails. Some of these dolls in here have actual human hair in them. That is a contact point. So it has an effect on that person whose DNA is directly connected with that doll. It is a way to help and even heal that individual because your DNA is there. So I'm doing things to affect this, so that affects you in a healthy and positive way. And also, last but not least, language. When we think about the blues, when we think about the ballads, when we think about the music, and even the use of the Bible, African people in this country have taken the Bible and we kind of just like used it to benefit us. Even though it was so oppressive, we somehow took it and made it into something that would be elevating to our spirit. The use of the Psalms, the use of the Proverbs, and including all those things as a means for our protection. The use of language, the use of things that are impossible. Bob Griffin mentioned the song by Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder also has a song by the name of As. And this song is saying, I will be loving you until what? Until I believe there's one that says, until the dolphins fly and parrots live at sea. What is this? We call this the principle of the unusual. Dolphins will never fly and parrots will never live in the sea. So I will love you until infinity, until that happens. So when we talk about these traditions, there's such a beautiful aspect of the use of so many characteristics in order to kind of activate that energy. So with that, and maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm kind of jumping into some of the hot topics and the meat and potatoes of this process. Since I've mentioned this aspect of so many people being drawn, so many people claiming, hey, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm this and that and this and that. Appropriation. In what ways has this tradition been appropriated? And uniquely, I'm asking this question, I know some answers, but I want us to kind of cut in to the surface, because Hoodoo and our traditions have been appropriated because, one, we were owned. African people in this country were owned. So why it is not unusual for people to claim affiliation, to claim knowledge, to appropriate, because, you know, that's just what they do with jazz, with blues, with hip hop, so on and so forth. So when we look at this, I want us to analyze that. And maybe I'm talking too much, but has our tradition been appropriated in any way in this country? And how are we, I would say, working against that appropriation process?
I'll say by first, this exhibition, reclamation of spiritual traditions, having spaces like this to navigate that. In some of the research I did, the book, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, Mojo Working, by I can't remember the author's name. But she mentioned the marketeers that took over in Hoodoo, all the products they came out with and tried to open up stores, and our stores having to be closed because they took on relabeling the herbs and all those items like that, that happened because but their products weren't working the same, because as I mentioned earlier, what was missing, the activation, the DNA was not there, for the same magic was not in those products. But that's definitely a form of appropriation. But having taken that back is having exhibitions and spaces like this to reclaim all of that.
I'll just speak to what the appropriation can look like. It can look like white people on Etsy selling alekes. It can look like white witches on YouTube teaching you how to cast spells. It can look like young people coming to our center asking us, well, how do I find the Black people who are doing this? Because every time I'm looking, the algorithm that I'm in is showing, these other people, and I'm trying to connect with my own. So yes, this space is super important in terms of reclaiming what that is. And then there's definitely are a number of people online who are speaking the truth as much as possible, but then we have to understand that online is not necessarily the place for our stuff, because then that's how they continue to appropriate. So it's tricky, you know what I mean? So it's almost like you have to know someone who knows someone. But that is another way that we protect it. you know,
Yeah.
is by keeping it a secret. Babalawo, I think, literally is like father of secrets. You know what I mean? Like, you literally have to not share it so widely. Otherwise, they do try. And they do confuse people. So then it's like we're working an uphill battle when people do come to us, because it's like, well, I tried such and such and it didn't work. And it's like, but who did you try it with though? You know what I mean? So yeah, those are some of the ways that the appropriation can look.
Absolutely.
I guess I'll pop in real quick, because I have a lot of experience. I actually had to take a moment and calm myself down when you asked that question, because so many
Share.
experiences of cultural appropriation have accosted me in my experience as a practitioner. Okay, so one of the things that we'll notice about American Western culture in particular is that everything and anything can be a commodity, no matter how sacred. There's somebody looking to capitalize and sell, right? And so when, especially in the West Coast, someone is seeking the assistance of a practitioner of the Hoodoo tradition specifically, there are plenty of people willing to sell them whatever they got, because everything is for sale. And one thing that you'll notice is, again, speaking particularly to the West Coast, but this exists nationwide, is that because the general pop new age energy of Los Angeles is so easily available and pervasive to people, people in those spaces feel like they need to be the most deep, most powerful new age practitioner that they can be, right? And they will use the indigenous tradition of Hoodoo to skyrocket themselves above other white or non-Black practitioners of other traditions, to make them the authority, right? So that's what I see a lot. When new age religion isn't enough for the new age non-Black practitioner, they will begin adopting Black spiritual practices, and then for whatever reason take up a lot of space, a whole lot of space within the traditions. So I've been fired for mentioning that Egypt is in Africa. I have been fired from jobs for protecting the sanctity of Hoodoo as an African traditional religion when people want to make it an American folk tradition. Like, I have literally lost access to resources time and time again because of this. I've had conversations where I've talked to white people who are selling Hoodoo items and have received death threats for suggesting that they should be more careful with what they sell and how it gets real. The defense of the Hoodoo tradition as not in ownership of African people is hostile. So because of this, some of me and the practitioners that I came up around created a list of books specifically about African spirituality written by Black authors. If you go look for a book on Hoodoo on Amazon right now, you will find 100 titles by people writing under pseudonyms that sound more African, with no picture of themselves, telling you whatever they want to tell you. So we collected a list of books specifically written by African practitioners to make sure that there is a pipeline directly to information from people who have ancestry within this tradition that is verifiable. Because one of the ways that we are going to stop the appropriation of the Hoodoo tradition is by steeping ourselves in community with each other and creating pipelines of access between us to each other, and making it a closed tradition, as Suru said.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.
Yes. Well, I wanted to also add to what you all are saying, and I want to ask another question associated with this. Before I do that, I believe this is from Katrina Hazard Donald's
Yes.
Mojo Working.
Yes.
And she talks about these forms and functions of old tradition hoodoo, one being that of aiding Africans to escape slavery. Two, keeping white people, particularly slave owners, from harming, beating, killing, and punishing Africans and their descendants. Three, keep a loved one from being sold or bring back a loved one who was sold. Four, cause master and or his wife to become ill or die. Five, ruin the master's crops and or farm animals. Six, control the white master and or wife and or his children. Seven, healing and medical care. Eight, procuring of food. So when we look at these aspects, what we have to realize is that this tradition is one of survival and the continuance of African people in particular in this country, which is in essence a hostile environment, still today. So I want to ask, what are ways that we're using this, or what are the ways that this is being used for continuance and liberation even now? I want to give a pop culture example from the TV show American Horror Story, where they used you see Marie Laveau's character, and she's going throughout generations. It was kind of going off of that notion that Marie Laveau lived an extremely long life, something like 200 years, whatever. But she lived through like the civil rights movement in the show, and they showed her doing things to fight on that end, and then they show her with a big afro in the Black Power movement of the Black Panthers in New Orleans. And my point is, does this tradition have space for working in the liberation of African people today, the liberation and protection of, because Lord knows we need it. You know, can Black Lives Matter perhaps benefit from this? Can, people who, just regular folks, our children, Black boys, Black girls, who are accosted by gang violence, can we use that to protect our kids? Can we use this to protect our kids? Can we use it to protect us from, mistaken identity by the police, or not mistaken identity being targeted? We've got police gangs here in LA that target Black people. Can we use this for our protection? Is it appropriate? So maybe that's a really, really, really long question, but my point is, it has a history of this. Are we working in the continuation of that history?
I'll jump in a little bit. Like I said, my colleagues passed the baton to them, trying to tie the two together. I would say we are not doing as much as we should, due to the fact of the stigma, and because we're taught you don't believe in those types of things. And then when one generation follows the other, I want to give an example. I do a lot of, for my culture, which is deeply rooted, as we call it, the conjurer. We call it the root worker or the root doctor in the Gullah Geechee culture in America, which is that southeastern part from Pinter County, North Carolina, right on down to St. John County in Florida. Most of you know it as 40 acres in a mule, field order 15. That's where the 40 acres in a mule phrase was birthed out of. So the Gullah Geechee culture mimics that almost to a T, 30 miles inland, wherein we were fortunate to have all of the Sea Islands, which is worth billions of dollars that I can't even count now, We did receive it in all of its grandeur with the Conjurer, which is Gullah Jack from South Carolina, was named a conjurer. All of this is in court records from the 1820s. And he used those conjurer things for escape. And I said all of that to tie in what we know the larger conjurer that has spread across America. It was considered taboo. Don't practice it. Don't do it. And even in my culture, we lost a lot because to get ahead, be like the Joneses, we have lost several generations. And when people come to learn about my culture, they would come back after I tell them about real people from the culture and their parents' parents were a part of it. They always come back and say, well, they didn't seem to know much about it. And I close with the chuckle, and I always hold my head down and chuckle. I said, well, you have to realize those real conjurers, those real people that practice it, when they got out of enslavement, the phrase was, and allow me, Monica, to do a little Hollywood here, emancipation, as we all know, didn't free anybody, but they had to create the law. It was good. Everybody was happy. But it took that Civil War to really force people to do what they really didn't want to do. And we are free. And it was a great moment. Wow. And then we thought the same day, we're free. And then we realized, what do? We don't have anything. So then from that generation, and I would say right now, the rebirthing of it is what we're doing right now, to put some new life back into it. So I think there was a part that we didn't do correct. And of course, those that's looking at it just for the money, they're taking advantage of it. Let's use the classic place, which we all know and we all travel there from time to time. Louisiana. My in-laws, Gullah Geechee, that practiced the art of the root worker, root doctor, conjurer, was mustered in, enlisted into the Civil War in Louisiana. I'm still researching why was he not listed, mustered in, enlisted in the Civil War in Georgia. Some way he went to Louisiana. And we all know they make millions of dollars by selling these products. But very few is teaching the history of it. And very few look like us at the top. It's almost like the drug situation in days of old. Well, you know, Cousin John is into them drugs. Cousin John got that from somebody that didn't look like us, that's putting him on the street and still getting rich when he get locked up. So the same thing with what we're doing, but I still like the fact that this generation now, which is actually two generations, I'm the elder here, and you guys are taking it. We cannot forget to pass it down to that generation that's younger than us. Let's not make the same mistake. So I only tie those two together as I close, is that we have failed. We can blame others, but this group that's on this particular program, we're bringing it back. And I think that has a lot to do with keeping it alive, and we have some benefits about it now, and it's going to take more of us. I'll close it on that. No one can save us, for us, but us. I heard that about 40 years ago in Washington, D.C.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. All right, so
Yeah.
why don't we kind of get into, so I wanted to kind of ground us before we started kind of talking about the aesthetics. And I think we're sufficiently grounded now in the history and the culture and the understanding of what this is, what it is about. No one on here is faking and shaking. We all got genuine articles on this Zoom. Like, so I wanted everybody to just, show up, and y'all did. So I'm thankful for y'all representing the real. So in terms of that, let us go into, I think a good question perhaps to Monica would be, why did we choose the dolls that we particularly chose? Why these dolls? What's unique about the dolls in this exhibit, aside from the fact of, you know, the overall theme of reclaiming Conjure traditions. What was something that that made you pick the dolls that you picked? Well, we work
picked them
together.
together.
You know, I have to say, Monica is like a phenom. And if y'all don't
Thank
know
you.
about Miss Monica Bailey, she put in major hours, blood, sweat, and tears, and I don't think she gets as many props as she deserves. So I just want to
Oh,
give her a big shout out, because
thank you.
this is an incredible exhibit. And thank you for even mentioning me in it. But you are the heart and soul of this thing. So please, you know.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Jocelyn. I'm so humbled. I mean, the vision, yes, I have to mention you because the conversation, it was inspired by you. So no, I take that back. So it's inspiration here and collaboration, the vision. So and also, you know, the space and the staff, all their hard working. I'm so grateful and humbled by everyone. That was, you know, helped to make this come together. I thought of, because there's so many traditions within, you know, African traditions, Black, you know, being here on this land. And it was important to show the different ways, because there's not just one way. There's, so through the dolls, whether it's the puppets, you know, who those dolls are connected to the Hoodoo practice. There's actually voodoo dolls, which we didn't really get too many of those, but I'm looking around the room here, we have a lot of fertility dolls. I mean, the textiles, the spirit dolls right behind me that all are filled by Nawili and Fana, who were the beautiful veteran doll artists who put these dolls together. And they're filled, a lot of them were filled with different herbs, rice, lavender, and intention. You know, that was really important, to have dolls that have the intention put in them, and practitioners that work with dolls like that. There's some hoodoo dolls in the other room, in the magic room. If you've been to our exhibition, there's one of the galleries, we call it the magic room. There's dolls in there that have been sent to us active, and needed to be cared for in a certain way. Like I place like the respect and just honor to that. And just like Daisy mentioned earlier, well, we took the time to make sure we do it right. I was like, this can't be wrong. It had to be done right and respectful, honoring the ancestors, because that was more important than anything, getting the nod. Because if I didn't get the nod, I think we would have stopped a long time ago. We would have got some messages, but the nod was there that to continue. So I think with that intention and with that meditation that was put out there, they just came, you know. A lot of our collectors and doll artists that have been with the center, like Pat Shivers, which will actually show pictures of the dolls. I think Kevin, he has some pictures that he'll upload so you all can see. Angela Briggs, her dolls made out of board, like those materials, like just super important and foundational in doll making, Black doll making and spirituality. So having these particular dolls come this way, I mean, I put the call out there and it was answered. So doll artists and collectors, y'all answered the call. So it's literally, I mean, I put it out there, but it
It
came.
looks like you crawled out of somewhere. What's up?
But yes, that's how it came about, you know. And I think everything else just domino effect after that. It was like the intention is there, we put it out there, and spirit said, okay, here we are.
Okay, so I don't know if he's ready or not, because I think this would be a good time to perhaps segue into some of the photographs of the dolls, and then we can
Yes.
kind of begin. So we took some select pictures of certain dolls that really, you know, the whole exhibit resonates, but these are particular dolls that really resonated with the idea and theme, and not only the idea and theme, but just the spirit of what we're trying to convey. And I just want to show some of them, and then we can kind of get into like discussion of what is this doll saying to us
Mhm.
and why. So
Kevin,
Kevin,
do you have the pictures?
Let me
Thank you.
share my screen.
Kevin is our a staff member here at the William Grant Still Art Center. He's been here for years as a child. He's an amazing young man and such an asset to our center. We're so grateful to have him.
all right, so we're just waiting for Kevin to kind of upload and share screen, but I've got a couple of questions as he's working on that. And the questions, well, the main question is like, what is this doll saying to us? Like, what is this saying to us? We can even begin to analyze the aesthetics of it. Like, why is this here? What does that mean? What does it mean to us? And we've even included work by many of our panelists. So we'll get the benefit of hearing what people are asking about these dolls, and then the benefit of some of the panelists who are the creators of these dolls to give us an idea of, hey, this is what this is conveying. This is what this is about. What am I saying with this? This is why this is here, you know, or kind of give us an idea of what was in their mind as the work comes through them. All right.
Okay.
So
Can you everyone see the photos? Hopefully.
can y'all see this photo?
Thumbs up. I don't know.
Y'all see it? It is a photo of Papa Legba. And this
NK abstract.
by NK Abstract. And this is at the front door. Right? This is at the front door. So what you'll see, I don't think NK is on here. Is NK on here?
No, we don't have a picture of her.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So, oh wow, look
Yeah.
at all those angles. So
Yeah.
when we look at this seems to me, oh, if you can go back, we're gonna kind of analyze them one by one if possible. So
Mhm.
this first piece is by NK, and as you can see, this is a life-size doll, or I won't say life-size, but probably about 6 feet tall.
Mhm.
And this
Life
is,
size.
yeah, life-size enough.
Right.
That's big enough if you look at it in a room, like, is that a person?
Yes.
I'm certain every time people walked in this room, that like this is probably the second, probably the second doll you see coming in.
Yeah, because you see Pat Shivers and then
Yeah.
you see that, yes, it's ushering you into the space.
Yeah, and so those of you who know, this is a Papa Legba, which comes this is probably out of the voodoo tradition, because as you can see, there is a voodoo veve on the front. And this is a deity or loa that is indicative of entrances, guardian of the gates, the one who ushers you in, the key holder, the door opener, the gatekeeper. So it's really important that doll was at the front door. And also, when we look at that skull that's painted on, this is like the door to life and death as well. And the first individual that we greet when we walk in, anytime there's any kind of a ritual, there is an honoring of that deity, the crossroads. But if we're going to look at this also within the context of our tradition of Conjure and Hoodoo, we can link this kind of energy, this kind of doll with perhaps Man at the Crossroads, Man at the Crossroads. And I'm so I wish so much that we would have had, like, the only thing I want to add right now is pretty much the music of Robert Johnson, and his song Crossroads Blues, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so when we look at that, I see Sudu mentioned also choice and fate, and all those things are kind of rolled up into one with this particular doll. But so I've said so much about it, but what is this saying to us, any of us? What is this saying to us? Because as I said before, this is perhaps the second doll that you see upon entering the space. And this is literally right by the door opening up into the actual space.
When I look at Papa Legba or SU, I just see choice. Like, I think of those moments in my life where I am at a crossroads, like to go or to stay, to take the drug or to not take the drug, to, you know what I mean? Like, to leave this relationship or stay in this relationship, whatever the things are. Like, I always just envision SU in my mind, almost holding up my choices. Like, what you gonna do? You know? And so when I look at this doll, that is what I think of. And I mean, while choices can be scary sometimes, I do right. I don't necessarily, I've always had an affinity for SU or for Papa Leg, but like I've always had respect, if that makes sense. Like it's it's less of a fear and more of a like opportunity that I get to decide. I don't view this deity as a trickster, even though that is the way that this deity is characterized often. I'm not denying that, but I literally just view it as choice. Like I see choice when I see this doll.
And okay, and also this is like interesting in terms of placement as well. So the details of this is like I think this is an incredible piece as well. So why don't we go to the next one? Ironically, we have a piece. I believe this piece is by Michelle Suru. And so, Michelle, what are you saying with this doll?
Gullah Geechee baby.
Yeah.
With her cinnamon.
Yeah. This doll has things inside of her that are to draw prosperity, to draw money, to draw opportunity, to draw abundance. And so that is her goal. She's filled with lots of intention, but she's also filled with items that draw those things. So yeah, she's a companion that aids in bringing abundance and wealth and prosperity.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So I'm so happy that you even mentioned that, because the other aspect of this relates to a piece. I believe it's written by Alice Walker. And Alice Walker wrote a short book called, I believe it's called In Love and in Trouble. Beautiful, beautiful piece. And in there, she has a short story called Everyday Use. If any of you all get the opportunity, take a look at that piece, because what that piece is talking about, what that short story is discussing, is how a young lady comes home from college, who she was living down south, goes to college, and then learns that these quilts, and I believe it was a milk churn, all those things were like heralded items and museum pieces in college. And she comes home and she's like, oh man, I'm gonna take this quilt that my grandmother made, and they're like, okay, what are you gonna do with our quilt? I'm gonna hang it on the wall. I'm gonna take this milk churn, I'm gonna put it in the corner. And what we're saying is, what I think is so beautiful about the art in here, and also what you've done with this, Michelle, is that is a piece that is for everyday use, right? That is a piece that is, you know, I actually use this. Like, you take this home and it's probably gonna go somewhere special, I'm imagining. It's going to be used, right?
Yeah.
And this is important in terms of the legitimacy, and not only legitimacy, but also the authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
what we've got going on in here.
100%. I can't wait for her to come home and bring me a coin, okay? A coin or a bag or two.
That part.
Yes.
That part. All right, so if we can take a
Beautiful.
look at the next one. So we're looking at the various angles of this
Yeah.
piece. Oh, wow, this is
Oh,
another incredible
wow.
piece. All right.
Yeah, this piece is actually a collector's item from a collector named Billy Green, who's a community member, who's a longstanding community member and collector that's been in the doll show for years and years. And when I went to Billy's place with another staff member and we were pulling out dolls, I didn't know about this particular doll. A pillow, it's a quilt, and it was called I believe a pillow doll. Ami, our director, actually referred me, told me about this doll because it's been in the show before, but I hadn't heard of, I hadn't seen it at all. But the history in this doll, I believe the quilt is, I want to say, at least 100 years old. At least, you can
Say
see that
about 150 years old.
150 years old. Yes.
And the rest of it used to just look like a pillow, basically, because, and it's actually holding a little pillow now, but the quilt doll, there are people who say that, well, black dolls were never outlawed, but they were actually outlawed in practice because people would get severely punished for having a black doll. And so this doll was kind of hidden to not look like it could camouflage itself as a piece of a quilt or a doll. The body you have there was, I think it was reconstructed probably in the 30s or 40s. But the dress kind of, or what looks like the outfit, the quilt part of it is very old, probably dating about 150 years.
Wow.
And it's from the collection of Billy J. Green.
Yes. That was important. Thank you, Ami. Yeah, that was very important to include in the show, just historical purposes, and just knowing that there was a time where we couldn't have dolls. We had to disguise them as pillows, having a black doll. So yeah, that was something that is included in the first gallery, in the foundational space. So all the dolls in the first gallery are very intentionally, well, all the dolls are intentionally placed, but this particular doll being in that room as a grounding and foundation was really important in the placement of the exhibition.
Wow, that's an incredible
Yes.
piece. Yeah, I mean, when we ask that question, like, what is this saying to us? How is this communicating with us? I mean, that's giving history. Oh, can you go back, please? That is giving history. That is giving lineage. That's giving continuity.
Yes.
Ancestors. I mean, when you think about that, how many people have touched that quilt that aren't here? And the memory. Remember, I was talking about the aspect of how this works. When we have a 150-year-old quilt piece, what is the contiguity within that? What has that, what and who has that quilt had contact with? What are the memories that are, input, not only in the making, but have experienced that quilt? That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. Just in terms of just stuff to think about as we're analyzing and looking through these pieces. Okay, can you go to the next?
Yeah, can I say one spot on that I think we need to add to spray that? Okay, it's a very, very old doll, and its date of birth was roughly what? Give me a guess on when it was made. What year? What year are we talking about?
Well, because if the quilt itself was 150 years old, but the reconstruction of it was maybe,
So 150 backwards, that's 18 what? We know 100 years ago would make it 1923. So then 50 years before that. So this is doing reconstruction, I'm guessing, the year of the doll. Am I
Yeah.
correct or not?
yeah.
I think you're right about that, Ms. Griffin.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so let's go with that. If it's that, then it could have been even at the end of enslavement. And that's the part I want to say to reconstruction. What we forget sometimes psychologically, I cannot forget because it's the world I have to talk on and do classes on, is that there was not a large number of uh, former enslaved. There was a pretty good number of people that never suffered enslavement. Of course, they suffered the racism, but they were not enslaved, and they learned as we did on the plantations, my generation, and I still practice it now. So put your seatbelts on. It's I still move off of the sidewalk where I grew up, uh, Gullah Geechee country and Conjure country from my culture, is that it was known that, if it's a white person, you move off of the sidewalk. Doesn't matter, you do that. You only do it for survival. As we all know, people died because of a whistle, because you looked at a white person, they could kill you. It's weird. So keep in mind, there was a lot of free people back then. So I'm only thinking that a free family that may have been free even during enslavement, maybe in the deep South a little bit. It was a little bit of us, but up north there was a lot uh, that were free, but formerly wasn't enslaved. Frederick Douglass is the most famous one. Maybe they were proud of those dolls back then. We learned from, and I'll end with this, doing the civil rights movement, uh, the children love the white doll more than the black doll. Simply amazing. And it's a black young children. So I think we're uncovering with this doll show a lot of hidden history that maybe we need to share during those difficult times when that doll was made. So that's it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
That was a heavy one, Robert Griffin, because when you said that, I began to think about the Clark's doll test.
Yeah.
And regards to where young Black children during that time period were asked, which doll is the beautiful doll? Which doll is the ugly doll? Which doll is the intelligent doll? And so on and so forth. And they're presented with a white doll and a black doll. And more often than not, all the negative things that were asked about, they would always point to the black doll. And then afterwards, they would be asked, what doll looks the most like you? And they did it, they did this, another version of this fairly recently.
I think it was 20, Tyree was the young man that did the test again in the mid-2000s, I believe.
And found similar results.
Yeah. So that's why this Black Doll show is important. 43rd annual, it is important to continue this.
Yes.
Yeah, images and representation,
Memory.
particularly to our young people. Thank you so much. Can we transition to the next doll? Okay. Where is that? Which one is
That's
that one?
that is the Medicine Priest doll by an artist named Angela Briggs, who's been a doll artist for years and been a part of the doll show for a very long time. Her work is so important and foundational. This doll is also in the first room where I created the foundational space. You can see a lot of the materials on there. You see beads, you see cowrie shells, feathers, African textile, the fabrics. There's some sticks. There's all types of things, but this is also a healing doll, a healing piece, showing all the connections again to the diaspora and Black Americans. All of it is all connected, and this medicine priest doll is showing that with all the materials. And her work is, I should have had another picture. You could see the rest of her dolls, but this one isn't necessarily made out of gourd, but it has all the beautiful other textiles. And you can see the other wrap dolls right below there with a lot of similar materials. But these dolls are healing, again, important, sharing, and just their physical. But you can actually, like, when you walk through the space, you feel the energy coming off the dolls. Like, so many people share that as they walk through the space. And each time, for 2 months that we've had this up, each time I walk through, I feel the connection to the dolls every time. They definitely are doing what they do.
You want to go to the next one? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Pat Shivers.
Yes.
Pat
I
Shivers.
love this doll.
Yes. Pat Shivers is a doll artist, also another veteran foundational doll artist of our center, and obviously a doll artist on her own, but she's been a part of the Black Doll Show for years. And her dolls are amazing. Most of them are not life size, but they're pretty tall. A lot of them are standing. This one, she's sitting on a bench. And a lot of Pat Shivers dolls have human hair. This one, yes, does. So detailed in the fabrics and very intentional. The tribal makeup, the shells, the bangles, the wood, everything is very specific about her dolls. And Pat Shivers dolls are always saying something.
I just want to clarify for the people that you mean human hair from a human that she knows, including herself, not from the beauty supply. Okay, because
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
human hair in our community can mean a lot of things.
Humans walking by, not walking by, but they're maybe her clients, because she does hair as well.
Can I do one other clarification? Not about that one, but I thought about what I said concerning the last doll, the black doll, and all the experiments. But for clarification, I was going to use another word, but my colleague making me sound smart like her, so I'm going to use the word clarification. Is that I I do move off the sidewalk now, but with a different meaning. I don't just do it for anybody that's white. If it's a child, black or white, doesn't matter, in a wheelchair, younger than I am, older than I am, I carry on that tradition. So when I talk to others, that you're looking at a breathing person that lived in the Deep South, that it was proper for survival, because you can lose your job. Like somebody said, losing their job because of words that they say. There, you can literally lose your job, to be trouble for your family if you stir up any trouble by not moving out of the way. So now, fast forward, I do it for everybody when I say move off the sidewalk. I just want to make that clear. It's not out of yes, a master, I'm afraid it's going to hurt my family. I keep it alive so I can tell the story to this 21st generation from times past. But now I humbly move for everybody. It's just something I do. I don't have to, but it's what I do. Thank you.
Wonderful. You want to transition? Oh, but the
Oh,
other thing I was
talk
gonna say
about
is
Pat's dolls.
this doll to me, and like all of her dolls seem to have a personality. Like, you know, like this one looks like she's about to just kind of break out into a conversation with you. You know, as you can kind of look into the eyes and even the tilt of the head, there's a personality there.
Mhm.
There's, you know, there's kind of a spark of life in the,
Yes. And Pat will tell you herself that her girls are busy. They're always doing something. When she comes into, when we do installation, she places her dolls. We place them, but she puts the extra touch on them and she makes sure that they behave.
yeah.
Yes.
All right, so why don't we take a while and look at the
Yeah.
next one. Okay.
Yes. The Hoodoo plush baby dolls by the artist of Iya Ijami. She is from North Carolina, and I actually found her on Instagram. I was researching and I saw these dolls. I said, wow. Like, and I saw her doing the work as she's creating the dolls and doing the ritual of baptizing them, do hoodoo dolls. She's doing this in this tradition. We'll get into it a little more. Of doll making is newer. These type of dolls and the field trips that we've had with students. I always, when we go into the magic room where these dolls are placed, I always ask them, what do these dolls remind you of? What, when you first see them, what do you think of? And a lot of the students say, oh, the movie Caroline with the button eyes. And I asked them, I said, yeah, next time you see that movie or when you leave here, watch the movie and connect it and you'll see it through different eyes because you'll see, as we spoke about earlier, appropriation, you know, the doll being connected to Caroline as if it's her, you know, so there's all those appropriations happening through media, through, you know, animation, but these are actually live. These dolls are sent to us active and each one were for different things. Like there's one that was for, you know, money, one for love, a whole list. She sent 11 dolls in total of these Hoodoo plush dolls. You want to kind of talk about the newness of practice with these dolls?
Yeah, these dolls seem to be, in my opinion, a newer kind of take on the process. Reason I say that only is because, well, maybe different from what I've been in contact with. The things that I've seen is, as we were talking about, human hair perhaps, or particular fabric, like even I'm sure you've seen the film. Oh man, why am I blanking out on the name of that film? It's about the sea islands.
Oh, Daughters of the
Daughters
Dust.
of the Dust,
Mhm.
yes. And at the very end of that film, where the grandmother put her hair and pieces of her clothes into this this pouch, I believe, and kissed it and had everyone kiss it and take it. And as they left the island, they would be also taking a piece of their grandmother with them. And the aspect of legacy and all of those things. This is very unique because this is an aspect, in my opinion, of creating and even adapting within the new world or going to the mainland, so to speak, because the uniqueness of this with the same ideology, the same kind of script and layout, but interpreted in a same formula laid out but done in a different kind of way. So that's one thing I feel makes these dolls very unique.
And I will say that a lot of younger people are attracted to these dolls when they go in and I ask them what their favorite dolls, they always like about 85–95% of the time, these are the dolls that they like and they want to order them and they're researching, looking at the doll artist context. So it's interesting, but it's also bringing them into the practice, possibly if that's what they're looking for, a way to connect, you know. Yeah.
Yes, it's like a great way to kind of bring newness to an old concept, perhaps, you know, because, you know, imagine if we could make plushie dolls for our children that were also protective or had a certain energy associated with them. That would be a wonderful, you know, wonderful thing to do. So I think that this, you know, this art piece does that.
Yes.
All right, let's take a look at the next one. Okay. It almost looks like they have sunglasses on, those two with the dark eyes.
Yes.
You know? Oh, wow.
Oh.
Okay.
And this traditional, I think, oh, Griffin's, we lost him. Oh, he's coming back in. This is the traditional Gullah Geechee doll. And this is actually Griffin's doll that he shipped to us from Georgia. And maybe Griffin, you can share and talk about this doll and the history of the Gullah Geechee dolls.
Yes, I think I may have pushed a button and don't know how to get to see my face. I'll work on that later. But right now, yes, that doll, when I received it from Ms. Bailey concerning the dolls, I quickly went into my repertoire of dolls. And mostly the dolls that I receive come from the work that I do as I travel within the Gullah Geechee culture and around the country and even on foreign soil. So we did a lecture or performance with our ring shot group, and people would send or give me things. And this particular individual saw what we were doing, and we keep the history alive because our uniform from the ring shout, from the Gullah Geechee culture, is similar to this when we perform the cultural art side of it. And so they send these dolls. And this one stood out, and I said, I'm going to send it to California to be a part of the doll show. It's not something I made. It depicts what we used to look like from the plantation. And I might add to it, just for history's sake, it was taboo, like the songs of the South was taboo. Now, me being a practitioner and a promoter worldwide of the Gullah Geechee culture, they didn't realize it, but our very own civil rights movement, in my opinion, made a mistake, but they did not know, and I understand why, and I'll make it brief, is that you did make it where the person, to be honest, talk funny, but that's our culture. Come here this year, that day. We don't have a problem with people from the Bahamas and Jamaica, like Yaman, you know, that's their dialect. So we had the same dialect, but we got in trouble when motion picture depicted that dialect. So they cancel these types of movies. But we're in the 21st century need to promote these types of things because we're going to lose it. If it's bad for Hollywood, that means it's bad for my family. But I could say more about that. But that's really the way we dress on the plantations. But it also depicts the cultural performance art side of what we do. That's the way it dressed. And I appreciate those that sent it to me.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so
Yeah.
I want to kind of show the rest of the dolls, and then what we'll do, we'll take the last 20 minutes for questions from those who are attending. So why don't we go to the next doll, please? And we can just take a look at those. All right. And just kind of say who, okay.
Oh,
by Daisy.
we have to
Yes.
pause through. So this doll here is Mother Skirt. This doll was created by our very own Daisy, the Afro Mystic as she's known. And she is going to break it down what you see on this skirt. Daisy?
Okay. So I'll be kind of quick and kind of brief, but so what you're seeing here is the external part of the fertility doll and her skirt, right? So the doll is called Mother Skirt. And the reason why is because I wanted to create a doll that had a symbolic meaning. And when I think about mothers and I think about the ancestral mothers, I'm thinking about the mysteries of the mothers, right? The mysteries of the womb, the mysteries of things that happen internally that you may not see externally, because there's always an internal and external world happening at the same time for everybody and everything. So this is my representation of what goes on within the mother archetype. And so on the outside, you see, a dazzling, shiny, luminous skirt, and things look as normal. But if you were to take a look under her skirt, you would find.
Yeah, very.
Okay, right. So there under her skirt are 7 bundles representing different elements of nature and forces of life that keep the universe and the galaxy spinning on its axis. So in those bundles are intentionally made, and those bundles are spiritual medicines that have been gathered a certain way, blessed a certain way, and that are made to empower any of the people viewing it. And so I'm not necessarily a doll creator. I've made a couple different things in the past. And, my mother and my grandmother know how to sew and they're seamstresses. But for me, I'm not so much into sewing. So when I got the opportunity to submit, I said, let me try something. Let me put something together. And when I did it, I will tell you that, the creation of dolls is unique to indigenous traditions, because it is a journey. It is a birthing process. If you've never made a doll, then you might not exactly know what I mean, but I would encourage you to try, because it seems like, okay, yeah, you're making a little doll, how cute. But what you'll notice is that in the middle of dreaming up the idea for this doll and dressing them and adding their accessories, they start to actually come to life and develop a certain energy pattern, almost as though you are creating something that is coming into existence. There was multiple times throughout this process of making this doll where the doll told me what they wanted and what they didn't want. It was like hearing whispers from something that was living and breathing, suggesting how to create it, right? And so I think that's one of the important parts of the doll making tradition within the Hoodoo tradition. It's breathing life into something. It's bringing existence to something. And that's something that we practice whenever we make any spiritual medicine within the tradition.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, can we just kind of go to the next renditions? Okay.
Ooh. Yes. Very important doll there, Marie Laveau. Altar, Gullah Geechee Altar by J. Daniels. Bottle Tree. Y'all know about that. to Spirit Dolls by Nawili and her collective. Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
It's right here. Mhm.
That's it.
That's it. Thank
Hmm?
you, Kevin. Thank you.
Could you tell them a little bit about because we have a lot of people online that may not know about the bottle tree that represents a doll fashion. Just give them a little smidget of that. Any of you.
Sure.
I would like you to say.
What you can share with us?
Yeah.
Just real quick, because
Come on.
we're gonna get to the
Right,
audience,
yeah.
but yeah, you could give us a little quick
Okay, well, that might be one of their questions. And being that we go into the audience, I'll just reserve. And if they want to ask about it, I'll answer. Thank you.
okay.
All right, so
All right.
why don't we take a couple of questions from perhaps the audience? So please, if you can put your question in the chat as well. And while we're waiting for questions to kind of populate the chat, Barbara Griffin, why don't you share with us in general about the bottle tree? Please.
Yes. Okay, yes, I'll do it. And I do this a lot so I can put people in the frame. We all have seen the story with Jamie Foxx representing Ray Charles. And if you remember that movie subliminally, you may have seen it and didn't understand it. There's a bottle tree in that movie, depicts the culture. In the Gullah Geechee culture, has a lot to do with the conjuring. The bottle tree itself is bottles that you place near your home, and evil spirits. Uh, it's a way, if you have that bottle tree there, when the evil spirits comes around, once they go in the bottle, another culture depicts it, being that we all have a little bit of age, maybe not as old as I am, many of you, but we all know about the genie in the bottle. Any of you remember that? You rub the genie and it comes out. This is similar. The evil spirits get in that bottle, So don't put a cap on it. And as I close with that, they have a very difficult time of getting out. So that protects your home from the evil spirits and the conjurer world. So they get in that bottle. It's enticing. It's kind of like a bug attracted to the light. And modern technology fix it where they go to that light, and we have things that will shock them. It's irresistible. They have to go to it. So the evil spirits will go to those bottles, and that's where it's entrapped in the bottle to protect the evil spirit from those families. That's part of the history. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
for that.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. So I'm still waiting for some questions from the attendees. I see some great comments by our director, Ami. She mentions, yes, I was going to say that this concept is all over the Middle East as well. The concept of the spirit entering into a bottle and like the genie in the lamp and so on and so forth. Very interesting. So, are there any questions? Or I would like to, if there aren't any questions, I want to ask some questions of people who may have attended.
Oh, there's Naila. That's a question.
Okay. All right. Okay, you want to unmute her?
Mhm. Let's see.
Oh, you called on me already.
Yes.
Okay, I thought but other people might have had their hands raised because I wasn't looking right at the screen at that moment. Well, Michamo Asante Sana Madase for doing this. This is Blacknificent. You all are Blacknificent. So not necessarily well, let me see if I can phrase it in the form of a question. You all showed in the slideshow, obviously that's not all that's in the exhibit, I assume. And and today is the last chance to see the exhibit. So I saw Monica, I had spoken with you on the phone a couple of times, and Baba Jashun. So, and I'm quite sure a lot of folks want to know if this exhibit will continue on someplace else and travel, or the possibility, and we discussed also the possibility of there being and needs to be a catalog to accompany this phenomenal doll exhibit. I mean, I've seen a lot of doll exhibits and dolls and so on, but one that's focusing on Conjure, Hoodoo, Mojo, Wanga, all of that is unusual, necessary, but and again, phenomenally Blacknificent. So
Thank you. I mean, we would love, that would be beautiful to have that, you know, move in the future, you know, to have it remerge again. I mean, yes, I've actually had that comment or posed to myself, and I don't know if Justin and people have said that, asked. I would love to. That's something we'd have to talk about with our director, and yeah, I think it's definitely something that I wish more people could witness and experience because of the importance and just the you know, it's the reclamation of it all. A lot of people have come in and not knowing anything about Hoodoo, never even heard of Hoodoo, and understanding spirituality in the sense that we presented it in this way. Yeah, like with photos, you spoke of photos in a book. That's, I don't know, possibility. I mean, we have some really beautiful photos, but yeah, those are all possibilities. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your support and your words. We will have, we have a lot of pictures that we have online, but we have video. We actually did myself and Justin the other day did a virtual walkthrough, and we spoke about the pieces in the different rooms. So we'll have that possibly in our YouTube or for the archive. So that would be something that may be accessible to the public.
And still come today for the final viewing. Come into the
Yes, please. If you're around, come through, please.
I wanted
10 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got like 10 minutes.
okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask some questions of people who, you know, who are coming, who may have come in to see this. And one question is, and maybe I can get this from one person who's come and visited the space. And that question is, how did you feel entering in the space? And how has entering this space and seeing this exhibit changed your perspective about these indigenous African American Black folk traditions? Would anyone like to respond to that? Okay. Anyone who has come and visited the space?
Well, I purposely did not move.
That means you.
I'm a part of the panel. But if no one will, that was my first time being there. I had never ever been to a conjurer doll show ever in life, and I'm kind of old. And then to see the history, some I knew about and some I did not know. The intriguing thing to me was I'm not alone. There's very few people, even in my own culture now, would even talk about in a serious way of conjuring. It's always in a New Orleans sense of hoodoo. That's fun. I've got to buy a doll to let everybody know I was in New Orleans. It's not in a real fashion of real history. So to me, to see a room full of people, room full of dolls, of real people I can touch and see that a part of this and not ashamed of it. Then I said, well, at least this is California, is always different. And so I hats off as a compliment, but it was unique to me. And seeing this put together so well for the world to learn a little bit more about and not be condescending about it, not to be ashamed of it, but feel comfortable in embracing it. That's that's what I saw because I struggle in my own culture talking about what I know I experienced. I've talked to the dead. The herbal practices I still practice. And a lot of my own colleagues are like, well, we don't want to talk about that too much. Well, that's in the past. No, I don't want to know it. It's a standoff. But that's what I'm saying it long because it was passionate to see courageous people such as you guys have even put this together. The last thought is that a whole lot of people showed up. And that to me was just reassuring we're on the right path. Thank you.
Yes,
And
thank you.
I would like to respond. I didn't know. I thought it was for the panel to respond, but yeah. The one thing that I experienced in seeing the dolls in this presentation and is the importance of aesthetics and a cultural aesthetic that for myself, there was when I was looking at the dolls, there's this type of psychic aesthetic that you find, and I relate to it in a musical sense, that a particular thing that I like that, happens in the music of Thelonious Monk or Jimi Hendrix, where it's not, or the blues in general, where these two realities are balanced. So basically, yeah, it was just interesting to see. I'm like, oh, this is a very, it's an aesthetic that shows up in the music, that's showing up in the art. And I was struck with the importance of having and retaining cultural aesthetics because I'm so used to seeing other cultures' aesthetics, and so the difference was very striking.
thank you so much for that. Dick, is your doll more so a shrine for deity, ancestors, or both? And if you care to maybe give us a sentence or two about that, Miss Daisy.
So it is a shrine to a spirit, and also a shrine to the ancestral spirits as a collective unit, the ancestral mothers in particular, and a representational shrine to the feminine principle in general. So even outside of humans and even getting to the elementals of the foundations of nature. So the feminine principle, the way they express themselves within the elements of nature, the forces of nature, and as well as the way that they express themselves in humanity as the ancestral mothers. So it's kind of a multiplicitous shrine to many different.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you so very much. I want to give accolades and thank you to everyone who participated within this exhibit. Ami, we thank you. Monica, such an incredible work done. All of our panelists,
Yes.
Michelle, big ups to you, Elder Griffin.
Yes.
Lawston, thank you so much for your input. Afro Mystic. This is the first time I got a chance to meet you, and I've heard so much good stuff about you. So good to be able to tap in with
Yes.
you know. And everyone, thank you, Kevin, for your support with the video production and all of the artists who had any level of contribution to this piece. We thank you so much.
Thank you, Ami, for everything, for fighting for us and, you know, rallying
Thank
us
you
and your
for such a beautiful exhibition. I am so honored to have, thank you for giving me this beautiful space that gave me a sense of comfort every day that I walked in. That made me feel completely, actually made me feel like I was healing. So thank you so much for this beautiful exhibition. I am so proud of this year's exhibition, and please let me know. I will work with you to get the show on the road. We don't get a lot of institutional support, even though we are a facility of the Department of Cultural Affairs, but we can work things out through our community and partner centers and get stuff over. We manage to all the time, and we've worked quite a bit with East Side Arts Alliance. They tend to take our music exhibitions, but if you know of spaces that would love this exhibition, it would do them a favor. It would definitely do them a favor to have this exhibition up and serve their community well. This talk today was so beautiful. I also want to remind everyone that today in person is the last day to see this exhibition. So shut off your Zoom real quick and run over there. We've got some refreshments over there. Kevin's putting up the turntables, and bring your favorite record, Conjure theme record. I'm sadly in cold Providence, Rhode Island, so I can't be there to celebrate the last day, but have a little extra celebration for me as well. And please enjoy this exhibition. Do not miss it. Get over there. Cancel your other plans, please, and get over there.
Come through. Yes. Thank you, Ami.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you all. Like learned so much through this exhibition. Like through the altars, the altar workshop, the candle workshop that Daisy did, and the altar workshop that Beverly Heath and Dr. Cynthia Davis did, the doll workshop with Aisha Sinclair, with Nawili and Fana, and also who's the other doll workshop? I feel like I'm leaving out somebody. There was another one. But anyway, thank everyone. I mean, this is just a testament to the movement, the forward movement of healing of everything that is already inside of us. We just tap in, it's accessible. These tools are here for us. Yeah. So yes, thank you, Jason, for your everything. Even though you say you don't need, you have blessed this space, and I'm thankful, grateful. Yes.
So, as we close, I want to just give us some homework. So these are some great questions that I want to kind of give everybody that Michelle and Monica. And one is, let us all envision a doll, a Black doll, that can shift the perspective of people globally. And what will we do? What intention would we put into that doll that would transform consciousness? And I want us to envision that and think about making. That's one homework assignment. And then the next homework assignment that we have is passing these traditions on. Let's figure out ways to pass this on and continue the legacy. Everyone at this point, if any of these people on the panel have Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts, everybody should be reaching out to them. Contacting them. We should know them. We should blow up their sites. We should blow up the site in a good way of William Grant Still Art Center. So we need to be out there, and the world needs to know. So with that, I thank you all for joining us for a really good talk. And I
Yes.
pray that we move forward in even further blessings and knowledge of our own culture. Ashe.
Yes, Ashe.
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 Yes. Come on down. I'll get off the Zoom and come through. And maybe we'll get on live. Thank you. Oh, there's some last messages. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Daisy, for uploading your, oh, she left, but.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
she
you,
uploaded.
Daisy. Oh, the Afro Mystic.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know if everybody can see that. Thank you.
So is this gonna be
All right.
uploaded as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is. It is, it is. Oh, we can't hear you, Omi.
Kevin, we could stop recording so you can run and do your DJing.
Yeah. Selector.